Lois Home
2,300
today.
people
Oh,
out,
But I
and I
did go
think
to
it
the park
probably
in St.
moved
Peter.
through
15 minutes the kids lasted. They're
already.
dripping sweat.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
And they
Secure.
didn't say as of quarter to
Yeah, I'd like to have that just for
6
my
or whatever,
PayPal
they didn't show
account
the
and all that stuff.
location,
And
but I
I
know
buy
you
stuff
can go on
online,
and see it.
all that stuff's in on PayPal. I change my passwords in there all the time because I'm so afraid someone.
okay, all the microphones on, please. And we can go whenever you're ready. Ready to go? All right. Okay, it is July 17th. This is a regular meeting of the Arlington City Council at 6:30 p.m. My name is Rich Nagel. I'm the mayor, and I'll be presiding at the meeting. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our guests this evening. And at this time, I'll have roll call of the council members. Councilmember Cowell.
Here.
Councilmember Highland.
Here.
Councilmember Batcher.
Here.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Here.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Here.
All members are here. Also in attendance tonight on my left is interim city administrator Laura Elfabach, and on my right is city attorney Arneson. With that, we will move on to approving of the agenda and any agenda additions.
Yes, you'll note that there are a few additions since the agenda was posted on Friday. The first being an additional resolution regarding the grand opening of the Minnesota State Capitol. We have some hot patching quotes and then also some discussion on an August 7th council meeting date change.
Okay, are there any other changes proposed in the agenda? If not, motion is in order to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Batcher?
Nope,
Oh, who got it?
both of them.
Everybody's,
Yeah, me.
Mr. Yashewski?
Ben and.
Okay.
Rita.
Motion by Councilmember Yashewski, second by Councilmember Batcher, is that correct?
Oh, sure, I will.
Okay. To approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Agenda is approved. Move on to the consent agenda. There are only 3 items on the consent agenda this evening. They are item A, July 5th regular meeting minutes. Item B, the bills. Item C, approval of the application for a transient merchants, peddlers, solicitors, and canvassers permit. You've had a chance to look at those consent agenda items. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Highland, second by Councilmember Hattlestead to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. There are no public hearings tonight. We'll then move on to item number 5, addressing the council, and this in regard to a small town grant request.
Sure, she's.
Is someone here to speak to that topic? I see no one. Is there anyone wishes to speak to the council at this time on any topic? Okay.
Jim, that's through the chamber, that small town grant request. Do you know anything about that?
The information was included,
Right.
Yeah.
but I believe, I thought they were gonna have a representative here to ask.
I did too. Yeah.
Or to discuss.
You don't know?
I don't.
Okay. All right, well, we will move on. Item number 6, announcements.
Right, the announcements are the farmer's market through September 25th. We have the MMPA annual meeting and dinner on July 25th. And again, if any of the council members are wanting to attend, let myself or someone in the office know so that we can assure that if we do have a quorum, that we post it. Arlington Night Out is scheduled for August 1st from 5 to 7:30. And then we have an initial budget workshop tentatively scheduled for August 7th. And again, the Leading Sibley Together Leadership Program has a deadline for registration of August 4th. We've got several staff, and I believe Councilmember Hattlestead has indicated interest in attending, but if anybody else is interested, let me know, or there's more information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the announcements? Hearing none, we'll move on to communications.
In your packet, you have a letter from the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. The city provided a contribution, and so they did send a letter of thank you and appreciation for that, which has been included. And then other correspondence is just the June building permit review, and then the police reports for the month of June. And the community development letter, newsletter.
I noticed in the police reports it didn't have the full months. Did anyone, or at least in what I was looking at? Did you see that too?
Yep.
Just part of the,
Through the 11th, I think.
Oh,
through the
I
11th
wonder
of
if
June,
the-
so I don't know if we're missing some
I
pages.
would
but
imagine,
Yeah.
probably.
I think the summary was there, but as
Yep.
far as each day-to-day
Yep.
activity
Yeah,
was
my
not.
guess is it probably got to get
Okay.
the second page.
Okay. All right, any questions on communications? Hearing none, we'll move on to ordinances. First reading of another installment of ordinance 313, I believe it is. Am I getting that name or number right? Okay,
The council approved the approach to, thank you.
yep.
I'll repeat. The council approved the approach to break out the subject matter of the new city code into more ordinance chapters so that we would have an easier index approach as far as trying to find things. And part of this is a result of that. Did send out 14 chapters, but 10 of those 14 had already been presented to the council in that chapter 13 miscellaneous, which we've now broken out into 10 separate chapters. So of these 14, only 4 of them were new ones. And again, this is kind of a rolling presentation. Anytime the council has any comments, changes, suggestions, questions, you can always raise those on any of these chapters or any of the chapters that were presented previously. And again, it's a rolling presentation. In each case, as a new chapter is sent out, it's considered a first reading. But none of these have yet been adopted. The idea is that once the council has been presented with all of the proposed chapters of the new code, there would then be a second reading. And again, any time between now and then, the council would have the opportunity to make any changes, additions, comments prior to adoption of the full new code. And of course, once the new code is adopted, it's subject to future changes. And I'm sure there will be. One of those changes will be if the council does at agenda item 8B, at a second reading of this ordinance 315, to adopt the state change on the off-sale liquor on Sunday. If that's adopted, I already have prepared a redraft of chapter 8, which is the liquor control chapter, to incorporate that. Again, it's a very kind of an ongoing process. I didn't want you to be concerned that you're suddenly being hit with 14 chapters at once. It's not that anything is being approved tonight, okay? Again, it's just kind of an announcement, I suppose you could say a first reading, practically speaking, of those chapters. This leaves us with 6 chapters to go. But of those 6, 4 will be very long chapters. The longest of all will be the zoning chapter. And I would plan to present those one at a time, so you do have a little more time to absorb them. But again, in this whole process, I'm trying to be very careful in not changing anything. Or if I do make a change, I bring it to the attention of the council. Those changes that have been made so far are just really kind of organizational changes. It's not that I'm rewriting ordinances, I'm just reorganizing ordinances. Okay, so.
Okay, any questions in regard to this first reading portion of ordinance 313?
Well, I was interested, excuse me. I was interested in how are we gonna modify this information in futures. When we had resolutions, we brought in a new resolution and it said it's whatever it was gonna do. And, you know, how are we gonna get rid of resolutions as such because we've got chapters now? And then how do we weave that new
Good
new
question.
resolution into
Sure.
what we have?
Actually, the process itself doesn't change. It's just that hopefully we have a better understanding of what we already have on the books. And if we want to make any changes, we can do that in a simpler way. In that, instead of worrying about, maybe a dozen old ordinances that are on the books on this particular subject, and trying to figure out if we make a small amendment, what ordinances does that affect, and, what are we left with when we're done? We'll have this city code, and we can look at a chapter, say the zoning chapter. And if we want to change the, let's say the setback rules on the rear yard, now we're going to have the current law is going to be in a chapter and section, and we just refer to that chapter and section and say, okay, now we're going to amend that. And we'd have a first reading and a second reading, and if the council approves it, then we just go in and modify that chapter of the code. Instead of, the old approach was we'd be drafting a fresh ordinance. And that ordinance somehow comes into play with all the old ordinances that are floating out there.
It makes more sense to have it this way. It's just learning how to make it work
Yeah,
the new way.
yeah. I think you'll find it'll be a lot easier.
Okay, good question. Any other questions in regard to this first reading? Hearing none, we will consider this a portion of the first reading, and we'll move on to item 8B, that is a second reading of ordinance 315.
Ordinance 315, we had a first reading in previous meeting. This basically just opts to accept the state law change, allowing Sunday off-sale liquor sales between certain times. And again, as we had discussed in the past, the state law was drafted in a somewhat confusing way, in that it said, well, here's the change of the law, but cities can opt in or opt out. And the advice of the league was that, well, since it was a little vague, each city should actually take some positive step either to opt in or to opt out. And the city council's wish was to opt in after having some feedback from our local liquor licensees. So this proposed ordinance 315 is actually drawn verbatim off state law. And basically, we're opting in. If we do approve this ordinance 315 tonight, this may be the last ordinance that we draft in this type of form. And again, I've already redrafted Chapter 8 of the code regarding liquor controls to incorporate this into that chapter now.
Okay,
So we're actually gonna do what I just asked you about, and this is our first one. Well, I would make a motion to accept the ordinance to amend the city Arlington off-sale liquor license regulation to include Sundays 11 to 6.
Second.
okay. Motion by Councilmember Yashewski, second by Councilmember Cowell, to approve ordinance 315, an ordinance to amend the City of Arlington off-sale liquor license regulations. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, we will vote by roll call. Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
Councilmember Batchor.
Yes.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
Councilmember Highland.
No.
And Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
4 in favor, 1 opposed. The motion passes. All right, move on to item number 9, Resolution 67-2017. Authorize or deny business development infrastructure application.
Yeah, this is an application that we're looking for the resolution as well as a conflict of interest form for the industrial park development. This is a similar process to what's been done, I believe, last year in the city there was one. So it's just looking for that application.
Okay, any questions? If not, motion is in order.
If I might, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
is this the application we put in last year, and because the state didn't budget or did not pass a budget, did not get
As
approved?
far as the
This-
funding, this
Yeah.
has nothing,
This is a separate one.
Okay,
The one that you did last year, you did have to do twice. You had to do 2 resolutions related to that one. This is now a different application. But it may very well have that same instance in which we have to come back and change it if the dollar amount is different.
Any other questions?
an amount of 1.375 million committed to adequate funding.
Would someone wish to introduce Resolution 67-2017? Some hesitation, need some more information?
Are we asking for money? I'm trying to understand.
Are we applying, we
For-
are applying for funding?
To develop the industrial park?
Yes, the infrastructure piece of it.
That's,
So is this all grant money or matching grant, or we're just asking for?
You know, Jason?
I can speak a little.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
So if you recall on the Circle Drive, we applied for this BDPI grant and got a portion of that for the paving of that street for Jason DeSemstone and that development up there. understanding that there's still goals to develop the industrial park on the south side of town, this is a similar application asking for some assistance from them for installation of that infrastructure. It's the first step. This application in no means does this obligate the city to move forward. Obviously, they're not going to fund the whole thing. There's going to have to be some matching portion of it, but to understand what those assistances and grants may be, this is the first step in that.
So you don't know what you get unless you ask.
Right.
So, this is the start of getting the ground ready for a new business to turn a shovel to start building.
Yeah,
But-
if there was a business, that came to the community and looking for some industrial land to develop, if we weren't out in front of it, it would be a certain amount of lag time before they could start. So this is kind of getting the things moving in preparation for
We've
that.
discussed this for a number of years, that if we're gonna have an industrial park, we need to have it prepared
Right.
for somebody to use it. All right. I'll make a motion to, I lost, 67-2017 authorize business development infrastructure application.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Regarding Resolution 67-2017, it was introduced by Councilmember Yashewski, second by Councilmember Hattlestead, and that is a resolution to authorize business development infrastructure application. Is there any further discussion?
Are we under any obligation, should we get the grant, that we'd have to match?
We don't have to use it if we
We
get
don't.
it.
Can turn it down, I suppose.
I assume we can turn it down and make some decisions at that point. Yeah, I don't, this is just asking, and then you
Right.
can see where you're at, and then you financially can make some decisions if you want to move forward with it, understanding what the assistance is.
Just to make sure there weren't a whole bunch of strings attached, that all of a sudden we'd have a whole council chamber full of people with tar and feathers, because their taxes went up or something.
I don't believe that's the case.
Okay. Do we have that on a recording?
This isn't working anymore.
All right, any further questions, discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call. Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
Councilmember Batchor.
Yes.
Councilmember Highland.
Yes.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed. The resolution 67-2017 is adopted.
Thank you, Jason.
Resolution 68-2017, authorize or deny encouragement to attend the grand opening of the Minnesota State Capitol.
Yeah, as many folks know, the state capitol is undergoing a pretty massive renovation, and so the state is looking to throw a big grand opening, and they are encouraging cities to encourage their residents to participate in the different activities and different events that they're having at the state capitol. And so this is a resolution that I just noticed in a league publication today, and so thought I would see if the council would want to approve this resolution, and then also just to remind individuals that if they are interested, there's a lot of information on the web, social media, everything about this, as they're really trying to make this a big deal, because apparently when the Capitol was first opened, they didn't even have a grand opening. So that's why it's not a reopening. This is the initial grand opening of the Capitol 100-some years later.
That didn't take long.
Nope. Who says government moves slow?
I'll introduce Resolution 68, 2017, authorizing encouragement to attend the grand opening of the Minnesota State Capitol.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Resolution 68-2017 was introduced by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Highland, and that is a resolution encouraging or authorizing encouragement to attend the grand opening of Minnesota State Capitol. Is there further discussion? Any other questions in regard to the event? If not, vote by roll call vote. Councilmember Batchor.
Yes.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
And Councilmember Highland.
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed. Resolution 68-2017 is approved. Moving on to item 10, an unfinished business, 2017 alley improvement assessment. Mr. Hattlestead's name is behind it. I don't know if that means if you're making a presentation.
That is what that would mean.
Okay,
This is
you're
in
on.
regards to the Methodist Church Alley, I believe it was the 55-217, I think that was the resolution. I'd like to discuss the Methodist Church Alley project and the changes and process used for the council meeting on the 19th of June. I was contacted by an Arlington citizen asking me if there was going to be another vote on the alley project in the next council meeting on the 19th of June, as he saw the alley assessment hearing listed on the agenda. I said, as far as I know, no, but I would have to check with the city office. I called and talked to city admin Liza Donabauer, and she said no. I then called the citizen back and said that there would be no vote as far as she knew to change the alley project per city admin. It was on the agenda, alley assessment hearing on subject 14, noting in regards to changing the assessment and not voting to change the original vote per Liza. So now in the meeting on the 19th of June, Pastor Stemmy and Larry Sorensen bring up the alley, and it ends up with a vote to change the scope of the alley project. Now a few days later, I received numerous phone calls from citizens who had been attending the previous council meetings in regards to this project, and they inquired why there was a vote when I told another citizen there would not be. I mean, my response was, at that time, I had no idea. I am as confused as you are. Then the next day, I asked city admin Liza Donabauer if this was even within the rules to have another vote without letting others know that were affected by this. Liza explained to me that she could not answer this question, and she would have to contact Attorney Artisan. Admin Donabauer then got back to me and said that this was in somewhat of a gray area. I then called the League of Minnesota Cities and asked them the same question, and the attorney there said, since your city has a city charter, you would have to go by the city charter bylaws, but that seems to be in a gray area. I gotta move my page here, so you have to bear with me. So now, as a council, we have changed a vote that was in the gray area per the league as far as how the meeting happened. It never gave the citizens who were against this an opportunity to speak and attend the meeting on the 19th of June. This evening, we as a council have an opportunity to make this all right by holding a special council meeting to readdress this with the church representatives and the citizens in attendance to voice their opinions. By holding a special meeting, we can listen to all viewpoints and cast a final vote where both parties have an opportunity to discuss their viewpoints. I believe as a council person, this is the least we can do to give the citizens an opportunity to voice their opinions on this issue. I asked city admin Donabauer if she could find out when the alley was expected to be worked on. Liza said she had talked to Jason Femright from Bolton and Mink, and that there would be time for the council to readdress this as the alley was going to be worked on in approximately 3 to 4 weeks. We would need to keep up with this process, though, to make sure we did not run out of time. I feel that the council has nothing to lose and everything to gain by doing this special meeting. Then we have given all concerned citizens a chance to voice their opinions, as the council should. I just think that we kind of missed the boat there. Whether I was given incorrect information from Liza or not, and I don't know that we can use that as an excuse, because whether it was incorrect or not, the citizens still didn't have that opportunity to come to the meeting when Pastor Stremme and Larry Sorensen were here, because I told them what I was told by the city office. I think it would only be fair that we did this.
Was the June 19th the final assessment hearing? Is that what that was?
Yes, well,
Yes.
Don't
was
you
listed-
typically vote on a?
we did the vote on the 5th, and then on the 19th, we changed the vote. That's when Pastor Stemmy
Right,
and Larry
when the
Sorensen
gravel
were
to
here,
the-
and this was when I was talking when the citizens asked if there was going to be a vote. That's when I contacted the city office. Liza said, no, it was pretty much for, as it says here, approving an assessment. Well, it got far past approving into revoting. And
So it
didn't-
changed the assessment instead of
That
approving
is
the
correct.
assessment.
So I told the citizens, most of them are not, most of them here, a bunch of them are here, you don't have to come. Because I was told by the city office that isn't gonna happen. Well, it did happen. So I question how that fair is to these people or anybody else in the community. I just don't think it's fair.
When you advertise as a final assessment hearing, it's not changing the vote. I agree 100% with you, Tom.
I
And,
felt,
and I guess I was, I didn't know what was happening at that point.
Yeah,
It's not what was on our agenda.
I was confused as well. We voted one meeting and the next meeting it changed. And we should have brought something up, questioned it before this.
I told my wife that, she said, why didn't you bring it up? And I said, I sat there so dumbfounded. I said, I honestly did not even know what was going on. That's the honest to God truth. I just, but it's not my decision, so it's council decision.
Okay, open for discussion. Comments by Attorney Arneson or comments by Mr. Femright?
Well, I guess to comment, Administrator Donabauer and Councilperson Hattlestead did also confer with me on this. And I guess I agree with the league, having done research on my own and also talked to the league, that state law isn't extremely definitive about this type of situation. In fact, there is an indication that the council can validly take action on an item that's not on the agenda at all. Technically, that is valid. Whether or not it's good public policy is the question. Because the idea of an agenda basically is to inform the citizens about what their elected officials are planning to discuss and possibly take action on at the next meeting. So technically, the vote change that took place on the 19th is legal. In fact, there was an agenda item that, at least generally spoke to that subject. But I think Councilperson Hattlestead raises a good point that there may have been some misunderstanding, and perhaps that certain interested citizens were then deprived of the ability to give their input to the council before it changed the vote on that particular assessment. So I think in summary, the vote that was taken on the 19th was legal. I guess it would also be legal for the council to consider whether to reopen the issue. If the council votes not to reopen the issue, then the decision that was made on the 19th stands. If the council votes to reopen the issue, I think it has the power to do so.
I think it's very important for us to hear from all the members of our community, not just a couple at the very end, to give everybody the opportunity. So I'd like to make a motion to reopen this and have a special meeting regarding the alley improvements.
Are we talking about a special meeting or are we talking about a hearing?
Well, is it
There's a difference.
so what route do we need to take? I mean, there's time constraints. So whatever would be, and if we were to have the hearing, would it be on opening it up to the decision in the first, or what? I guess I want to revisit it as a whole, so I don't know what direction we should go about first, if it's a hearing or if it's a.
My
special meeting.
understanding, and it may be wrong, my understanding, if a hearing is called, it has to be because something is being proposed to change In other words, we know how it stands now. Of course, if the council would vote to open this back up again, that would be the proposal that possibly would be changing something. I'm a little confused though with if we're at the current, if we look at the current decision, which Attorney Arneson had referred to as being legal action, we're looking at regarding the alley improvement, we're looking at a 25%, a 25% assessment to those property owners along the alley. And, I mean, would opening it up saying we want to go lower than that?
No, it might go higher.
Okay.
I guess I don't know that we would
Yeah,
know, I don't know that we would know this until we addressed it. And the reason that I mentioned special meeting was when I talked to Liza in regards to this, because of the time restraint of when, I mean, if the alley started, there's no meeting.
Yeah.
So because they're getting close to that time period to start that work in the alley, we need to keep the ball rolling.
Okay.
So Liza's suggestion was that we had a special council meeting in 5 days, 6 days, something in a short period of time, because then when we gave the pastor and Larry or whoever from the church and the citizens the opportunity to come and speak, we don't know what the end result would be, but let's just say it got changed. If we keep the ball rolling, that still gives the church the opportunity to decide if they want to go along with that. If we're down to the last second and say, well, we're going to do this, they can't go back to their members, their council, anybody.
Okay.
So I think it's only fair that we at least give them that time. I don't know if anybody knows what the end result is. I just, and that was the reason that the special meeting was brought, a
Special meeting.
council meeting was brought up to get this thing moving forward because of time restraints.
Okay, there was a motion. You did make a motion?
To
And it was
have
for
a
a special meeting?
Yeah.
And to reopen the issue or reopen the
Correct.
discussion? I'm gonna ask for a second on that first, because if the, let's.
second.
let's- Okay, motion and second then to call a special meeting and to, I don't wanna put words in your mouth.
I would say, look at the project, the alley
The
project.
alley improvement project, okay.
Reevaluate the alley improvement project.
Okay, so that motion has been made and seconded. At this time, I'll call for additional discussion. Engineer Femright, would you care to speak?
This alley improvement, what I had prepared was the resolutions if indeed we wanted to reissue or rehold another assessment hearing. And understanding that we have some indecision on what we want to assess and how we want to assess it, I would highly encourage this meeting to discuss that and to provide clear direction to us if we are going to ever reassess this, different than the 25%. So we don't have to go through this process, over and over, because we have hearing notices and I want to be clear on those. That's the amount that is going to be assessed when we send those notices out, when we publish them in the newspaper. Understanding that the project is happening, I want to provide clear direction to the contractor as well, that what we're constructing. Right now, we believe we're constructing all of the improvements. That's the direction that we've gotten based on the June 19th meeting. That's the direction we're going. If we want to do anything different than that, I would like to know as soon as possible. So if we can hold this special meeting to discuss it, provide us clear direction, what you guys want to do, how you want to assess it, if we want to change the project at all, I highly encourage the special meeting and not moving forward with an assessment hearing right now. Let's get some direction out of that and then move forward. I think that makes the most sense from our project standpoint. Just a quick side note on this 429 process. You can hold the assessment hearing after all the improvements are done. We've talked about that, holding it before the improvements or even after it's done. So, we can reopen the assessment hearing on that. You may get appeals, right? That's the risk that you hold by doing that, but we have time on the assessment hearing portion. What we really running out of time is clear direction what we're gonna be constructing, so.
With that being said, Jason, I don't want, to, do all these improvements and do the solid surface on top, not the gravel, you know, do the drainage like we were talking, and then assess that that's not fair, and then come back and assess whatever that may be, whatever the outcome may be, I don't know what that's gonna be. I think it's fair to make that decision beforehand so
Right.
that everybody's in the know, and if, however it pans out, that the church has the say in moving forward or not. I don't think it's fair to do all the improvements and then change our mind and assess more or whatever. If that happens, not saying that it is, just saying that
Right.
that's not fair.
Other comments?
So we're gonna have a special meeting to reevaluate what the people want, or what we want, or whoever wants.
Pretty much what everybody wants, because the people in essence,
Did we do this 3 times already?
twice or 3 times, yeah, we voted on it, it passed it, and then 16th we changed, the 19th we turned around and changed everything all over again. But no citizens
Because
were
I
here.
think it was done sometime in April,
April?
and then it was done again in
Yep.
June, and then again,
But that doesn't exclude the fact that the
July.
citizens were not allowed to come.
they were allowed to
They were
come.
allowed to come.
We did not have bars on the doors, they were allowed to come,
They didn't come because I told them they shouldn't, they didn't need it to, because there was no vote, because that's what I was told
there
from the
was a
city administration.
miscommunication, Yeah,
It was just an assessment hearing, it wasn't changing the scope of the project
I don't have the agenda, I don't
on
have.
the paper from what I remember.
You can read it right here, I got it with.
That's what it was. So you changed the scope of the project and the assessment.
Is that what it said?
I'll give it to you so you can read it, Jim. The circled one right there.
Okay. Approving an assessment.
And this is the June 19th meeting, I
Correct.
presume? Now, the assessment that was approved at the June 19th, after the hearing, was approved later in the agenda on that evening, was the assessment for the 25%. Okay,
Yep, that was the 25%
right.
change
And that's-
from what it was on the 5th.
Okay. Because that's what the engineer was instructed to bring back the revised numbers on the 19th due to the action that was taken on the 5th, I believe.
He bring back the numbers for the vote we made on the 5th, correct? We made a vote on the 5th, and then you bring those numbers back, because that was going to change it, I believe.
Yeah,
I had a final assessment roll that was not approved, dated May 23rd. That was the alley improvements. When we're talking about the storm sewer would be 100% assessed, while the alley reconstruction would be 25% assessed.
And that's what you brought back to the 19th.
Right.
So I have my 5th and the 13th
Yeah,
thing,
that was
correct?
brought on the 19th, and then on the 19th, it was decided to go forward with the original project, paving the road and installing the storm sewer and assessing all of that at 25%.
At a lower amount than what was original on the plans.
Than what was in that original final assessment roll, it
Correct.
was less, yes.
And just to go over the assessment again, it's always been, whether it's been gravel or pavement, it's always been 25% and 100%.
At first, it wasn't 25%.
No.
Well, at first, right.
Yeah.
Well, at
Im-
first we changed the policy.
Right, so
And then we went to
improvements, if
gravel.
it's improved, then it's 100%.
Right.
If it's a reconstruction, it's 25%, and that goes, but we did change a policy saying that if it was special circumstances, we could
Right.
bring it down
We changed it to like a
to
reconstruction.
25% for a, improvement.
And when would we be thinking of having this special meeting?
I would think the sooner the better. The sooner we can get the ball rolling, the better it's off in the end for if something were to change. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And I'm not saying anything will change, I just think that we need to give those citizens an opportunity. Because whether we didn't have bars on the door like Jim said, I was told that wasn't gonna happen, a vote. I told that to the citizens. Well, the citizens may not know there's not bars on the door, but why would they come if I told them there wasn't a vote? I mean, I feel bad for them. I'm the one that looks like a donkey, because I told them not to attend, only because that's what I was told from the city administration. And I don't think that's right, at all.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I think everyone needs an opportunity to talk. And for us all to hear, for us to understand it better, because everybody's confused coming, it sounds like from where I'm sitting anyway. And especially since one group wasn't there because that's what they were told, we've got to give them an opportunity to speak.
Okay, what type of notice do we need for posting for a special meeting? How many 2 days, 3 days? What?
3 day,
3 days, okay.
How many days?
3.
3 days. Okay, I will call the question. Motion has been made to hold a special meeting to reopen the discussion in regard to the alley improvement. Motion was made by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Hattlestead. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Motion passes on a 3-2. And now it's just to determine when that special meeting would be scheduled. I see it, I might as well have input right now as to what works out for everyone.
7 o'clock if it's this week.
Okay.
Or-
On a
or
3-day
later.
deal, can we get it in, posted tomorrow? So we'd be good to go anytime after
It would be
Friday, after Thursday.
Friday would be the earliest.
Okay.
Because the day it's posted does not count, but the day of the meeting does.
So does Monday work, next Monday? I mean, that would be, we get it done fast so that, I mean, we don't, like I said, in case something were to change, we don't know that. At least that would give Jason more time with his people, and it would give the church more time to go back and talk to their board or members, whoever, because the change can be made to the point they don't agree with it. We don't know any of that. So I think the sooner we do that, the better for everybody involved.
I'm gonna be unavailable next week. I'll be in North Dakota, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
How about this Friday?
So that's the thing, we want the citizens to come and, Fridays to leave town, maybe, I don't,
Friday is a bad one for.
Well, how about a week? You're coming on Wednesday?
Let me look specifically when could be back in town again.
what's our time frame, Jason, again? I know that if we don't do anything, it's, right,
Sooner the better.
So I said, sooner we
We're
do
gonna
this.
wanna start doing that storm sewer work within the next week or so.
I would not be back in town until, if we're talking evening meet, excuse me, evening meeting, Thursday, the 27th.
I've got a commitment out of town.
Let me ask this, and I don't know what the policy is, I'm just gonna lay this. Is it possible that, and that's maybe too much, I was thinking that the street committee could meet with citizens and church representatives, and then we could come to a consensus and come back as soon as possible to the council with those same people in attendance again, so we know that we've got it straightened out to get moving on. I'm just trying to think the way to expedite this.
Suppose the only thing is the street committee wouldn't have the authority to.
No, and I understand
Yeah,
that,
as far
but
as.
we could pretty much go over everything,
Mhm.
so it would make the council meeting much easier, I think. Just a suggestion.
So then, that would be the meeting that you would,
That would be the special meeting
the
then?
special meeting?
We could
that-
add that as a special meeting and then come, which would be, if Jim can attend it. We could have that during the day, well, no, because people are working, still have to have it in the evening.
You know, I know where Pastor Semi's gonna be on Sunday, we could meet there. Okay, that's not a good idea.
You're just loaded with ideas. I'm just trying to find who's on the streets committee again. Oh, here we go. Highland and Hattlestead.
I mean, Tom,
Be
you
fine
have,
with me.
you have the people that wanted to speak. I mean, if we do a Friday, and I don't know what everybody else's plans are, but if you can talk to the
If we
people
did it
and,
this Friday?
yeah, and if you
I
can
am
talk
fine
to your
with-
people and,
Well, some of the people are right here
Right.
right now, and they would let the rest of the people know.
cause that's, to me, sounds like.
And the
about
people
all we
that
got
aren't here, I will make it a
Yeah.
point to personally contact them so they do know.
Right.
Too late to put anything in the paper, Kurt? No, Kurt's, too late to put anything in. We could get a little blurb in the paper yet? Okay, that will hear that.
I've got some plans Friday that can't be changed, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be out of town Friday. But, you know, I've got a vice mayor here.
Oh, there you go.
Don't you do that.
Well, as far as that goes, then, I mean, why
Then
do it on a Monday and
Monday,
we
yeah.
can still do our vice mayor on that Monday?
Yep,
Right.
That way, people
Freeze-
are gonna probably be in town, not going,
freeze the
leaving
weekend
town.
up for everybody else.
Absolutely.
We could do the vice mayor on Monday.
And I'm off on Monday, so any time, I mean, it doesn't have to be
Like a
7.
Not to put the squeeze on you, Jim, but I think you know, if we just gotta get done. If you're cool with
I
that.
got a strong heart now.
I got a strong knee, so my foot's strong too.
Okay, looks like Monday then. Shoot for Monday for a special meeting. Time, folks?
Whatever.
6:30?
6:37?
6:30 again? Makes no
Either works
difference.
for me.
Whatever
What's
works for
the
the
status of, Parks Board?
Parks Board meets on Monday night,
Oh, yes.
so we
What
have
time is
to.
that?
Do you have a meeting this month though?
I don't know.
Or-
7 o'clock is their
7.
meeting.
So do you wanna do 6, or how long is this? 6:30?
It's probably gonna take an hour,
6.
I bet. We better plan at least, we can't plan 30 minutes.
6 o'clock on Monday? Is that what
That works.
we're, allowing enough time?
Can you guys make it 6 o'clock on Monday? Not 6, 6:30.
Okay,
What time is your park board meeting?
we could
over
move
at?
Park Board meeting to a little later.
Okay, if his park is over at 7?
No, it starts at
Starts at
7.
7.
Oh, this is over, well, the meeting's 7:15.
If they have a meeting.
Well,
But
then
it's
we're
still
in-
on the
how about
schedule.
Tuesday?
I thought I seen
Well,
something in there.
you know,
about
Parks
maybe-
Board could be changed.
Oh.
I mean, that meeting can be moved
Okay,
earlier or later, depending on what, I'd say keep it on Monday night, but,
I
Slide-
would be fine with that, just like I
slide it
said, the
back a
sooner we
half
do
an
it, is
hour.
honestly the better.
yeah.
We could move that to 6. That's when we met last month.
6 o'clock?
Yeah,
Okay, well, whatever.
and that's
Just
what
have
we're
to-
gonna do when cemetery has a meeting.
Okay, so Parks Board then would be moved up earlier.
Okay, so Parks Board, it'll be at 6 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and then special,
Special council meeting at 7?
6:30 is fine.
6,
If that's what you guys want, or whatever you wanna do, I don't care.
half hour would be enough?
Will half hour be enough for parks?
No, no, I don't, well, I don't know. I don't know what's on their agenda. I can't say.
Sometimes. Al got it one in 21 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah,
So should we do 7? That way we
Sure.
give them an hour?
that way it gives them an hour.
Yeah. That would,
I
that gives
think
them plenty of room.
Yeah.
So Monday at 7?
Monday at 7. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see which one I'm working on here. Okay, item number 11, Johnson Controls, update from City Attorney Arneson.
We discussed at the last council meeting that I had had some faint signs of life from Johnson Controls. Their staff attorney had called a couple of times, and I called him a couple of times. We didn't connect. Since the last council meeting, I've called him and also the regional rep, Lyle Schuman, to indicate that the council wished to move forward with a lawsuit unless they pulled some kind of solution out of the hat at the last moment. And I've had no response. So I guess they're following the old pattern where, you know, there's some signs of life and then they fade out. So I think it is at the point where if we do want Johnson Controls to participate in any way in redoing our system, that it's probably going to take at least the beginning of a lawsuit. Having thought about it a little further, I've always tried to be as much of a full-service city attorney as I can be, but the last time I did a contract lawsuit was at least 30 years ago, and you know, we are going to be going up against a bunch of corporate attorneys. I feel uneasy about initiating it. And in the first place, I guess, as I intimated to the council before, I think we need to evaluate our chances of success. You know, there is a guarantee out there. The system is not performing as it should, so I think there is some basis for recovery. But the next question is how much of a recovery, because at any given time, anywhere between 96 and 98% of the streetlights were working, according to the numbers I got from city staff. And so Johnson Controls would have the opportunity to make an argument that while they may have some liability, it may be limited. I guess what I would like the council to consider would be to have a consultation with an attorney who specializes in contract lawsuits of this type to evaluate our case and give an opinion to the council whether it's worthwhile moving forward with it or not. And then also to give the council an estimate of what they might charge to handle the case for us. Again, I feel uneasy about doing it since I'm so rusty in this area of the law.
Well, like you said, it's a huge corporation. They're not, I mean, they're gonna have, you know, all their
Stacks of
lawyers, right.
corporate attorneys.
Yeah, exactly. They got, you know, I did some Googling, they got a ton of attorneys on staff. I mean,
Yeah.
that handle just stuff like this, so.
Well, it doesn't put us at that much of a disadvantage. I guess once you get into court, the judge doesn't count heads.
Right.
You know, you got 20 attorneys over here and you got one over here. In fact, sometimes the judges have a negative reaction to that kind of thing. You know, I think quite often judges like to think of themselves as defenders of the people, you know, and the people doesn't necessarily mean 20 corporate attorneys, you know. It means the city of Arlington and its taxpayers. So I guess I wouldn't, you know, want the council to be too concerned about that factor. It's just that with a corporate attorney staff, they're going to, you know, be squeezing every word of that contract, you know, to try and find some loopholes. And that's the part I'm very rusty about.
I'd have to wonder too how much contracting an attorney would cost the city, and if it would even be worthwhile even moving forward with a lawsuit, seeing that we probably, well, depending on what kind of restitution we get, we might just blow it on paying for an attorney to get.
That's what I'm thinking would happen. The attorney fees might overrun our recovery.
Unless you get somebody who, like a personal injury type lawyer who does something,
You know,
You get a
contingent
percentage.
basis?
You get a percentage if you win.
Big deal, I don't know.
If we win.
That's an interesting idea. In this area of law, though, I'd say it'd probably be
Right.
unlikely we'd find a firm that would take it on for that reason. Well, again, I guess it could be a two-step process. One would be to authorize having a corporate law attorney, contract law attorney, evaluate the case. And, you know, I could get a quote in advance from, say, 3 different attorneys on what they would charge just to evaluate it, which I would expect wouldn't be that much of a charge. And then once we have the evaluation, you know, then the second step would be to get a quote as to what they would charge to actually bring the case.
Which makes sense.
Let me ask you this, Ross, do we know how much the total streetlight project was back in the day?
Well, we got a quote on how much it would cost to replace it,
Yeah,
not too long
About
ago.
$210,600 to replace the entire system. The original system, I think it cost somewhat less than that. I can't give you an exact quote because it was part of a much larger contract, but that's the impression I had.
What if we were to approach it with, to avoid a lawsuit, if they would settle for $75,000, we wouldn't go to court? Or 50 or 90,
Well,
pick a number.
yeah, and that's what we've been trying to do for, I don't know, at least a year, is to get them to talk to us about that. And the closest we came was that the regional manager, Lyle Schumann, I think it was last November, sent an email back saying his group was discussing it. And that's the last we heard from him. So,
My guess is their corporate attorneys know that probably a small municipality is not going to spend the money needed to fight the case in court. And if they lose, look what it costs. And I think they know that.
yeah.
So why should we offer anything when they probably aren't gonna do anything to us anyways? Because of the cost.
Yeah, that may be well, you know, what's going on. Of course, I did play the reputation angle, and I did suggest to them that, you know, their reputation is at stake. You know, that they need to stand behind their projects, and we're not very satisfied about this situation and can make our dissatisfaction known in various ways. So we did play that card, and I think that was before this regional manager got back to us and said that his staff was discussing it, or discussing solutions. But again, it didn't seem to move the needle beyond that.
Is there, cases where, if we were to win in court, that we could also ask for all of our lawyer fees attached to any kind of restitution?
Yes, that's a good point. It's always available, however, it's rare. The courts typically will not impose that. It's really kind of a sanction or a penalty on the other side. The courts will normally not impose that unless they feel there was extreme bad faith on the other side. And I'm not sure the court would find that in this case. Bad faith in the sense of the lawsuit itself, you know, requiring the other side to bring a suit. Typically, I think it's in a case where the court ends up feeling that, gee, this was a cut and dried case to start with. You know, the losers, they shouldn't have required the other side to sue them in order to get their rights. Okay, and most cases aren't that clear cut. You know, there's always a little bit of argument on the other side too, the losing side. And if there's even a little bit of an argument that they had, you know, to require the lawsuit, the court isn't going to impose that sanction on them. So we can always ask. In fact, it's fairly common to ask. You know, if a lawsuit is brought, especially let's say on a contract or on a guarantee, to say, hey, by the way, court, if we win on our guarantee suit, we want the other side to pay our legal fees. And that's very common. But I'd say it's very unusual for the court to grant that.
And do a lot of these get appealed?
Well.
I mean,
that's
could this be
another good
drug out
point.
for 5, 10 years?
We could win the first round and then Johnson Controls could appeal it. Yeah. Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
Settlement would be our best bet,
Oh,
Yeah.
just a straight out settlement.
Well, and it's still a possibility. I think, reading them, and I think you may well be right, they're thinking, well, Arlington's not gonna bother to sue us. Well, if a lawsuit suddenly drops on their front steps, they still have the opportunity to come back and say, oh gee, well, we don't feel that you've got any grounds for this suit, but, in order to maintain our reputation and our goodwill with the community, we'll throw some money at you. And that's not unusual either. So that, getting to the stage of the lawsuit doesn't mean it can't be settled. In fact, again, the way the system works, after lawsuits are brought, probably 95% or more settle before it actually gets into a trial.
I mean, I think it'd be worth our while to at least get quotes and have somebody review it. I mean, if it doesn't cost us much to have them review it, at least we know for sure, what an expert at something like that thinks.
I think probably if we don't take that step, we might as well just make the decision right now to drop the
It's either
subject.
that step or just never
forget
talk
about
about it again.
Yep.
Right.
Just eat our loss and be done. I think we
Yep.
should take the step.
Yeah.
At least try. If the guy says, hey, your chances are small, it's gonna cost you a
Yeah.
fortune, you're not gonna recover it, or it's so minimal.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. What do we owe you? And walk
Yeah.
away.
Yep.
But at least then we know in our minds we did everything we could to possibly recover some of this.
Well, if that's the council's consensus, what I can do is get 3 names from the league and contact those firms and get a quote for what they would charge to look at it. And then bring that back to the next council meeting. And depending on what the quotes are, then the council can decide whether or not to authorize one of them to look at it.
Right.
And then after that, if they look at it and evaluate that maybe it's worthwhile to take it forward, well, then we can get another set of quotes to actually hire a law firm to bring the suit.
But
Everybody-
we're into this 9 years, the warranty is 10. By the time we get all of these things, the warranty will be up.
Well, except that the basis, the contract theory that we would be using is not, well, let's have a good system for the remaining year. It's, we didn't have a good system for the first 9 years, so, and this is a legal catchphrase, that the product was not fit for its intended purpose. And that gives us a basis for a suit. So in a sense, the time frame is not relevant until we actually have that guarantee completely expire, which is next year.
Right. And, we've been listening, it doesn't seem right that a big corporation can milk us and it feels like they've taken advantage of us all the way.
Well,
And-
well, except again, and this is something, recent council wouldn't be aware of. Going back 9 years and 8 years and 7 years, Johnson Controls is very actively trying to solve the problem with this. They had personnel coming out here to Arlington. They had their subcontractor, trying to figure out what the problems were. And they also paid, actually a local contractor, Newsmeyer Electric, to come in and make fixes and install these starter units, or whatever they're called. And what would happen is, during the winter months, is when these things failed. When a street light would go out, we'd pull the starter unit, they'd send us a new one. They would pay they would pay Newsmeyer Electric to install it. And then it would work again. But then, of course, a street light down the block would go out, so we'd be right back where we started from. But they were very actively, at least for a period of time, trying to solve the problem for us. They really started fading out, I want to say 3 years ago maybe. We started having a lot of trouble getting replacement parts. And then the subcontractor, American Induction, was very slow in paying Newsmeyer Electric. So then Newsmeyer Electric told the city, we're not going to be doing this local work anymore. So I would say, you know, the first number of years, they were good. It's the last few where they've faded out on us.
So it's still half the guarantee.
Is the consensus then to have Attorney Arneson bring back to the next meeting? Okay,
That'd be great.
all right, we'll move forward with that then. On to item number 12, hot patching quotes. I think, Kirby, do you have some input on that one?
Not much.
Not much? It's all on the paper, huh?
They are, yep.
They are what they are.
Who did it last year? Or did we do it last year, Kirby?
No, we did not. I can't remember who.
I think it was Miller's also.
I think they gave us the best price there anyhow.
So we don't have quotes.
We do.
Yeah, they're in there.
They're in
They're in the packet.
the packet, in here.
They're added today.
I found Chard's quote very hard to find my way through because they did not,
It's pretty generic.
yeah, it is, in that they don't, were they working off the same measurements that everyone else was?
Miller's seemed to be, now this is my first go around with all this, so I'm pretty new. It seemed to me Miller's was going to be milling up a lot more material and putting back more material. So
Yeah.
I think that's what drove his cost up.
Okay,
And Shard wasn't going to be taking this much up.
well,
250 square yards.
yeah, 250 square yards, and Miller's comes out to, I added up all the numbers, 454 square yards. So, much different size scope of project.
Yeah, because there, on those streets, there's, a couple of those streets, it's overlay, and the overlay is coming up, so he was talking about digging up both, you know, overlay and then what's underneath that.
Miller was talking?
Yeah, on some
Okay,
of the spots.
okay.
Charge not,
It didn't seem to me he was, though.
so one thought it had to and one didn't.
And working with the budget, I know last couple of years, it's been average of maybe $7,000 patching. And so our budget is budgeted, to me, for about 10 grand of patching that we can afford.
Can we,
But,
sorry, go ahead.
well, these particular streets this year are really beat up, I think, compared to the last couple of years.
Do you think it'd be possible to get a more detailed quote from Chart, or do you think that's just what it,
I think that's just,
that's just what
That's
it
their
is?
quote.
That's just their quote, okay. I mean, do you think it includes pretty much the same stuff as Miller? I mean, the same areas, maybe just a little less?
Well, okay, to be honest, there was one street right before his shop that I missed with him. He was the first guy I rode around with.
Okay.
I called him back and said I missed 2 manholes that you're gonna have to repair. And he said, oh, that's, he didn't come back and look at them, and I don't know if he even put that on his quote or not, but I let him know about that. He didn't make it sound like it was a driving price, you know, way up. I don't know what that would be. I'm so new at it, I'm not sure what really breaks down yet.
Well, and Chart is replacing everything with 3 inches of asphalt, whereas Miller has got 4 inches in some places and 1.5 inches in others.
Yeah, he talked about 1.5 inches to charging.
Hmm.
Seems
Okay.
about 1.5 inches, another 1.5 inches and replace.
and you think Mueller is the one that did it last year?
I know Miller was in town repairing some potholes, but I don't know whether they came back later and did the more street work or not. I just remember seeing the truck.
Theirs is about 15,600, another one from Chard was only 10, under 10 for it all.
Yep.
Right.
Well, I had told him from the outset what numbers we were working with for budget. And Miller's, I don't know, so we skipped some spots with Chard. Miller's kept looking and kept adding a few spots here and there. But I didn't think it was much more than what Chard did.
Right, and then, well, that other company or whatever is, over $21,000,
Yeah,
so I
they're
mean,
out of
They
it.
do it a little
Per-
different method.
right, pretty much.
Well, if I take the, what, Chart again is figuring 250 square yards. If I take the square yards that are included in Miller's quote, take that times Chart's price of $39.50 a square yard, it brings Chart's price up to over $17,000.
As well.
Yeah. Because he just is not basing his bid on the same amount of area that Miller was, or Miller is, I should say.
I would make a motion maybe to go with Mueller on the project. Looks like it's a little bit cheaper. I mean, them and Shrug were neck and neck, but they laid it out nice. Know what we're getting.
I'd second that.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Hattlestead to go with the bid of William Mueller and Sons for the hot patching project. Any further discussion?
I just
Any-
have one comment, Kirby, man, if you know, on Miller, there's a water main break on West Chandler. If you, I don't know, it's a question right off the top, would you have any idea where that would be at?
It's on the 800 block.
Pardon?
The 800 block?
Is that right on the corner of,
It's right in the middle of the block on the south side of the road.
okay. So there's a lady who lives on the corner of West Chandler and the 8th that goes into the fairgrounds.
I think so.
She's right on the southwest corner, and there was a water main break that was repaired and it sunk. And I mentioned it to Liza last fall, winter, to have Tony take a look at it, because right at the end of the driveway, it's just slush and ice from that water main repair.
I think I know where you mean. Is that the one, the street was sort of wet for a long time, or there was?
Yeah, just kind of a little sinkhole right
Yeah.
there, I know, thinking.
There is a sump pump that empties into the street at that
So you're
spot.
talking about my house? No,
No, I'm not talking about your house.
no, I don't think that street is
That's
wet.
probably
There's
something we could throw in there. Yeah,
a little
I mean, I would think. I don't think it would throw everything out of whack.
So they made the notation of a water main break just to mean that that's a patch that had taken place earlier?
Yeah.
And they had a
Earlier in the year, yeah.
Okay, so it's not,
It's just a big gravelly patch.
okay, okay, got it.
That's one by Four Seasons Park.
There's one by Four Seasons Railroad Track, and then there is another one on East Baker.
Okay. Right, any further discussion?
Well, for clarification to the council, I think if you take the approach of this as being a unit bid, as the mayor correctly pointed out, Miller's bid is actually the low bid, if you calculate by yard. And so I guess if you were to vote to accept Miller's bid, you would be taking the low bid. But it's kind of an open-ended type of bid, and, you know, the city's done this many times in the past. The city supervisor should, you know, have the ability to keep a tight rein on the patching they actually do. You know, because it is a little bit uncertain right now, you know, what volume they're gonna do.
Well, you know, it's quite a detailed area. They talk about the street and different areas and what size the patch is, and so I think it could be easy to make sure that they get completed what they said they were gonna complete, just by looking at the schedule of project. Any other questions, comments? Again, motion by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Hattlestead to approve the bid received for hot patching from William Miller and Sons. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thanks, Kirby.
Everybody doing well.
Item 13, City Administrator Recruitment. Mr. Gary Wires is here. Would you care to move?
Right here,
Yeah, that'd be great. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Here tonight to move forward with the recruitment process. Several things to talk about tonight. The first is the draft profile that's been included in your packets. I'd like to get some feedback on that. Make sure that that completely meets your desires as far as how we move forward with advertising. I'd also like to talk to you about the establishment of a salary range for the position. Obviously, that needs to be done in advance of moving forward. And then finally, to talk a little bit about possible dates for the process moving forward. So if I could, I'd like to just go ahead and start with the draft profile. I thought it'd be a good idea for me to read through the whole thing while I'm sitting here, just to make sure, you know, every word is okay. No, actually, I'll just take your feedback. I will point out that it has been already mentioned that the picture that has a lake in the background is
That's
not in fact legitimate. So we've already switched that out, but it's still here in your draft. But that's been remedied. Actually, Liza pointed that out and said, nice photo, but not our park, so sorry about that. That's been corrected already. So I'd be happy to take any input you have regarding the document.
I had one thing on the pictures, and under the education. It'd be kind of nice to, if we can get some renderings of the new schools.
Yeah, the third picture down especially, that building is gonna be knocked down within a few weeks here, so probably isn't real appropriate to. I would think through the school there'd be
Yeah, I
An
tried to find it on their
architect would be
website once,
something.
but I would think you
I
should.
have,
something.
You have pictures?
You have pictures?
Okay.
I can,
So you can
yeah.
email those to me
Yeah,
right away. Great. So take out the third picture down.
Especially, yeah, I don't know.
Do you have both schools, Michelle?
I probably can get
Okay,
access.
I'd take out both if
Both of
possible.
those, both of them.
If we have replacements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. But it's mainly the third one, if there's only one replacement,
Third one
down's got it.
third one
Sure,
down is,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, the third one is the hospital.
No,
No, that's the fourth
no,
one.
this one.
Third one's a Gaylord school.
Oh, okay. Oh, the first one, I
It's
see what you're
yeah.
talking about, yeah.
All right,
Gaylord School.
so we will, sub out both of those, okay? Sounds good. Other thoughts? concerns?
Second paragraph on page 3, near the bottom, it refers to one of the parks as the High Island Creek Park. That one was new to me. I don't think we have a park named the High Island Creek Park.
The sportsman's.
It
says
says Sportsman's
Park.
Park. located
Sportsman's Park,
along
yeah.
Is-
Oh, yeah, then High Island Creek Park is a major county recreation area used for.
That's the county one that's down 12, so not in town.
But is there any part of the Sportsman's Park referred to as a High Island Creek Park?
Well,
No,
it
but
says
it says that that,
Along the creek.
Oh, along the creek.
yeah.
But then the next part says High Island Creek Park. Well, it says it's a major county recreation area. Would you prefer that no reference be made to High Island Creek Park?
Well, I suppose being it's talking about the
Yeah.
parks that are Arlington City Parks, then it wouldn't have a place in there, but I just needed explanation on that. I don't know how the rest of the council feels. I just haven't heard, I'm sorry, but I haven't heard of any park in Arlington referred to as or any connection whatsoever with High Island Creek Park.
So there's two parts to that. One is that it says it's along High Island Creek. Is that
That's
correct?
That's true, it flows
Okay.
through it,
So
yeah.
then the next sentence says High Island Creek Park is a major county recreation area for nature outings, hiking, and horseback riding. I mean, it's not unusual for us to step a little bit outside
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
city
Okay,
to reference something like that, but if you would prefer to eliminate that sentence altogether, we
no,
certainly can.
we're good, we're good.
Yeah, I think it's
Yep.
Okay.
Little ways up in that same paragraph, home to the senior center, that name has been changed to the Lions Center, as in the organization, LIONS.
Okay.
And then just the wording there is home to the Lions Center instead of and multifunctional, a multifunctional complex that includes a community room. Just-
Okay. Other items?
Down by the race cars. The raceway is associated with WISSOTA organization. It's an IMCA sanctioning
Sponsored by the legislation.
instead of WISSOTA.
So, the phrasing should be associated with, or
I
should it be
am-
changed?
Associated
just
with
take out the word WISSOTA.
IMCA.
Yeah,
Put IMCA, different sanctioning body.
I got it. All right.
Then at number 56, you could put Billy Johnson.
Anything, other comments? Under budget information, just so you know, it'll say summary of general fund, not sum of, a little bit, just that'll be changed as well. It is kind of a sum of, but summary of general fund, describe that, I think, so. Other thoughts?
I don't have any.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, all those changes will be made, first thing, well, as soon as we get the photos, so,
Okay.
and then the rest of the changes will be made right away, tomorrow, as well. So the next item to talk about then, I don't know if you're gonna take action, official action on this, or if it's more of a head nod, or however you wanna do it. Salary range though, I do think takes some action on your part. I included maybe more information than you wanted on salary comparisons pulled from the League of Minnesota Cities for cities population, 1,000 to 4,000. Now, these are only cities that participate in that annual salary survey, so you may look at this and go, well, what about this one? What about this one? Well, if they didn't submit information into that, there's no record there of that. So I'm open to your thoughts regarding that. I will say that with that recent change that you made to the law enforcement structure, it probably does warrant a revisiting of this topic. What those ultimate numbers are is up to you, but again, it's important for that to be resolved so that a range can actually, I don't think we'll get a lot of applicants for that 0 to 0 range that it currently says. So that needs to be updated.
Right, I think a huge, something we should think about is how experienced do we want the next person to be? Do we want them very experienced? Do we want them fresh? What do we want? And that would dictate, I think, the range as well. Do we want some experience? Do we want a lot of experience? Do we want little experience?
Of course, I suppose that's
Well, you
what the range is there for.
Yeah, you can make a big
Right,
range.
Once
right.
you can make the
But-
range bigger, I suppose.
Right, but but then the other thing too that we were talking about, and we haven't had an employee relations committee lately, to maybe go over, pay scales and such, but we were talking, when we did the, police chief, pay scale and shorten that up to that 4-step instead of the 9 or 10 steps that we have for everything else, about shortening that up as well. So, but like I say, I mean, experience or what we want for experience in the city administrators should be dictating, the amount of money that we're willing to fork out for that or whatever too,
So let me just react to that for a second.
That'd be great.
You are not gonna have a tremendous number of candidates for anywhere near this kind of salary range that have a lot of experience. So, you'd have to go probably well beyond your comfort level to achieve that. Now, that doesn't mean you won't have people with experience, but I don't see the candidate group with a lot of depth, with a lot of people that have a significant amount of city administrator experience. They're just not moving around, or they are moving, but they're moving to much higher paying positions. Even if you went with this range, that's the average range in the numbers that I put forward, that's not gonna pull somebody with a significant amount of experience. So there's always that balance there, I guess, with what you can tolerate. Obviously, that's incredibly important. You all report to the citizenry, but I just wanna put that out there that, it's not, there aren't gonna be, in my estimation, a ton of experienced people that have a lot of experience that would warrant moving them way up on the scale.
Unless they're looking to retire but at this job, that's not the case.
But
You
that's
never
pretty
know the
estimated.
variables that come into play, so everything I said is a generality.
Right.
Because there's always those situations that emerge in the process where it could be that, somebody grew up here, spent 25 years being a city administrator somewhere else and just said, I wanna go back there and live, boom. Could be a perfect candidate, but there's just no forecasting that.
So is our salary range now, can we get someone with 5, 6, 7, 8 years experience?
No.
We're missing, we're out of the game.
If you're talking 60 to 80, what your salary range is right now, I can tell you, you're not gonna find person with
Beginners
that
to
kind
1
of
to 2 years,
experience. Yeah.
so.
Or
I
somebody
think
fresh.
there aren't many people coming into the industry that are gonna work for $60,000.
And we gotta think, how often do we wanna do this?
That's
How much
exactly
are we
right.
gonna invest in the process? And we don't have a body, it's just the process.
Well, I
And
think that's gonna continue though. I
Yeah,
mean, unless we're gonna
unless you're
jump
paying
up and
over
really
100.
pay for it. But I think with what we can afford,
You don't have to go far down the road, and they're over 100,000.
Other side of Norwood.
Yeah. Or
Norwood's
the other way too,
Norwood's
St.
almost at
Peter,
100,000.
that way too.
Well, the way it looks, Gaylord was at 90.
Right, and I
So-
think the last one was 80. I kinda like Gaylord's range, or somewhere in that range.
I'd agree with you.
In that 90
Or,
range?
well, they're just their
Oh, their
general
range.
range.
I see.
Was, when you did the police chief and the police officers, that was based on Gaylord's as well.
Correct.
Right.
yeah, a
So-
little
so
bit,
that-
but
using
kind
that as, so
kind
there'd
of
be
as a
some consistency there.
gauge since we're kinda competing against
And-
them.
and
But
we
the
are
other thing
competing
to
for
add to that is
administrator
our
too.
benefits are better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one thing that we can add to it where maybe our salary doesn't have to
Yep.
be all the way up there, but, close.
Make it competitive.
But then the benefits,
Yep.
The
just
total
add.
package.
Yes.
Right,
And they're looking for one now too.
I know.
Yeah.
So what are they gonna do?
Yeah,
We gotta do what's best for us.
absolutely.
But it does seem like that's kinda the ballpark. I mean, if you look down, a few hundred, people per capita, and you look up a few hundred people per capita, it is that $70,000 to $90,000 range.
That's the range. If we're gonna sit under that, that's gonna dictate what you're gonna get.
Right, yeah, well, I mean, and that's just what it is. So
Does it
I-
hurt us to stay as low as 70 if we know that we probably wouldn't be able to hire anyone at 70 anyhow?
I would, my earlier comment was I didn't think you'd be able to hire anybody at 60.
Okay,
So I, personally, I would have a comfort level with you starting at 70.
70.
I don't think that's a deterrent.
okay.
So, no, but to me, 60 is.
Mm-hmm, okay.
But if you went with that range, you're talking 70 to 90, your call to make, you're the ones who have to answer, to the taxpayers on that, so.
Well, and the other thing that I was thinking of when I was looking at these numbers and trying to come up with a number for the administrator, is that they're in the office 40 hours a week typically, and then on top of that, they're in the office evenings,
Mhm.
right? At least an evening or more a week.
Oh, yeah.
So, and if it's all salary, I mean, that takes away from family time and from personal time and stuff like that. I mean, they're committing to us, so we should commit to them.
Very nicely said.
About the exact reason we lost Liza.
Exactly, yeah.
She had too much time here.
So like this, does it have to be like a fun number or 70 to 90 or
Whatever you wanna make it.
I would be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
just flat?
I think I don't know that we have any other choice. I know it's a lot of money, but what, if that's what it's it's no different than hiring a chief of police. If we're gonna hire a chief, we're gonna have to pay what the going rate is.
No, we are,
Or we aren't gonna get a good chief.
we're not locked into, I mean, if somebody,
No, that doesn't
if
mean
we have
we're-
an outstanding candidate that says, well, I can't come on for 90, but I will for 95, we can go beyond that a little bit, can't we?
You could, I mean,
Or is it usually not,
it usually doesn't happen because
Okay.
usually what you publish is
your
top.
limit? Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I mean,
But-
theoretically it
Yeah,
could happen.
I'm just
yeah.
saying, well,
Yeah, you would have the flexibility. to
you would
do
have the
that.
flexibility to do it, okay.
Yes.
But if we post $70,000, we couldn't be like, oh, hey, we think you're worth 65.
No. No.
That probably wouldn't
They're
fly.
gonna get a minimum of 70.
No, that
So,
wouldn't be so good.
Just saying, we
Do
should.
that, they'd pull their application.
Would you like that in the form of a motion, just to sort of
I think it'd
get
be-
some parameters and get it on the,
I think for your
And bu-
records,
yeah.
it's probably important to
Okay.
have that.
someone willing to
I'll
make
make
a
a
motion?
motion that we list the range of salary for the city administrator, $70,000 for the low end, up to through $90,000.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
I wouldn't have a problem with even 95.
Okay. You wanna speak to that so you can influence the vote, or do you?
I just, the more we can afford to pay, the better candidate will get to apply, and the longer they would stay, I would like to hope. Because this process takes so long and costs a lot, it's gonna cost. If we can get them to stay a few years longer, it will save us, $5,000.
But I honestly don't think, the world's changed. People are not or feel as obligated or committed to their employers as they did years ago. I mean, it's just the world that we live in. As soon as somebody gets a job, they're looking for the next best thing.
Well,
To put this job on their resume, that's just how it is now.
all the young, my in-laws my son-in-laws and whatever, they said they're never not looking.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think,
Because there's no loyalty by the companies either, and so, they're ready to go out the door at any minute.
I mean, I guess the reason I put those numbers out there was to be competitive with our surrounding communities, because that's where they're at.
That's
You know,
pretty
and
much
and
What about the step better?
Well, we have better benefits, so.
Oh,
Yeah, our benefits would be the step better.
We're really a lot of fun to work with.
Yes, we are.
We'll put that in the
And it's a-
file as
I
well.
wouldn't put that in there.
Okay, we have a motion to put the salary range at 70,000 low end, 90,000 at the high end. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
All right, so the next thing I'd like to talk with you about our dates. There are some key dates in the process that I just want to highlight for you. So we're here tonight to, take action, move forward with the process. Job will be posted for approximately a month through approximately August 17th. The next date of significance for the council would be September 5th. That, I believe, is your regular meeting, but is that
But that would not
Labor
be our,
Day?
That's Labor Day.
Did
and
I
I-
already adjust for that?
We should, if you haven't, we should be adjusting for that.
September 4th.
September
Is Labor
4th
Day?
is Labor Day.
See, so I'm
So
ahead
you're
of
good.
Okay,
ahead
yeah.
of the curve there. But is
Okay.
that, is that already set for you, that it would be that Tuesday?
Yeah,
instead of-
Yes.
if it
Yeah.
isn't,
So
it
maybe-
needs
maybe-
to be.
Actually, probably Liza deserves credit for that, not me.
Okay.
All right, so that would be another, that's when I would be here. Prior to that
Okay.
time, you would have a chance to watch video interviews, personality indexes, review all the application materials that people submit. That night, you would then select people to come in for the final interview, which is a very substantial date to talk about, or dates. So, generally what I recommend is holding a couple of dates, because sometimes, depending on what you want to all include in interviews, and we'll talk about that later, sometimes it ends up spanning a couple of days. So that doesn't mean like you have to take 2 full days off of work if that's an issue, but what it may mean is that you start with some interview activities, like the afternoon of day 1, and then you do final interviews day 2. So maybe the council has some responsibilities over the span of 2 days. So I usually like to just say 2-day interview process, even though you may very well want to reduce that to 1. I was up in Nisswa today doing interviews, and they did all of it in 1 day. They did a community panel, they did department head panel, they did a lunch together with all the candidates, they did a full interview of the candidates. So, it can be done in 1 day as well, if that's what you prefer, but I just like to have, I'd rather go from 2 to 1 than 1 to 2 later on.
Mhm.
So I put those dates out there now just to get some feedback from you. There may very well be other dates that work better for you, but I just throw them out there.
what were they again?
September 27 and 28.
For me, a Monday,
I'll be
Tuesday,
gone.
Monday, Tuesday would work best for me versus middle of the week.
You can do that without me, I think.
No,
I'll be out of state.
it's good to
Okay.
have everybody
There's
here.
I'll be out of state
township
that
fire and
weekend.
ambulance on the 27th.
So, you gotta say that whole week.
I'll be out of state, what's Wednesday of that week? What's the
The
date?
27th.
27th. I'll be leaving the 27th and coming home the Tuesday of the following week.
The 3rd.
Third.
Yep.
So what if you did Monday,
20.
Tuesday,
I'm open to
26th.
anything else.
25, 26?
Yeah, I'm open
That's
to all
better
that.
for you too, huh?
Monday, Tuesday would probably be the only days I could do 2 days.
You know-
If we had to.
Yeah.
That'd be fine with me.
I'm pretty flexible, kind of.
Does that
Very
sound
good.
like a better option for folks? 20, 25 and 26, Monday, Tuesday? You can change this later if need be.
Yeah.
I won't come to you saying, you better change this, but if you have, you have concerns or issues with those dates that come up later, we can change it. So it's flexible.
How's that work for you?
We've got our board and hospital board. We can work around that.
Evenings.
Should we go with those for
Tom,
now?
how about you?
I think for now, there's some committee meetings coming up, but those can be moved to,
We could change some of it, yeah.
we can, knowing this far in advance, those
Yeah,
changes.
that's kind of why I like to get it out there, and then we can, adjust this interview schedule as needed to.
Mhm.
And again, depending on what you all want to include.
25,
as well. We
26.
could end up with just one of those days very easily. So.
Yeah. So it'd be changed to 25, 26, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's really all, I mean, the job description was also included, I mean, it's fine, I mean, job descriptions are just something to start with anyway, I mean, basically this job is whatever you want it to be, at the end of the day as a city council, and I didn't see anything that I found objectionable in this job description, so if you wanna
So-
modify it, you can, otherwise you don't need to do anything with it because it's already in place.
So this is the one that we're dealing with right now?
That is the one.
That is ours right now?
It is yours.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Wires? Hearing none. Thank you very much.
All right. thank
Appreciate
you.
your-
So I'll be able to get those pictures tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll email them to you probably in the morning.
All right.
Early morning.
Because then we'll be,
It'll be my first task, so you'll probably get them before you get to work.
before I even get off.
Probably.
To get to work for me though is from the main floor to the basement.
Oh.
So you get up before
So-
10?
How early are you,
I'm in the
how early
office
of a
usually
riser
before
are you?
7, so, you know.
Oh, you'll get them then, well, you'll get them before you get
All
work.
right, but that'll be, and then we'll be ready to post tomorrow. I'll send out an email later on, just kind of confirming that everything went as planned.
Okay.
You know, it won't take long to make the modifications to this document, and we'll be set to go.
Okay,
You know, the other thing that was gonna say or whatever, Kurt probably has really good pictures of the buildings, don't you? He just took not too long ago, if I remember right.
Share those.
I'll give you a card. Email, okay, perfect.
Then you can.
He's
take
up at
pictures
4
of
AM
them.
working himself.
I know, he's up even earlier.
Little scoops up real early every day.
Where are you planning on doing all the posting for it? I'm assuming the league and MCMA and that type of stuff.
Yeah,
but
so the League of Minnesota Cities, MCMA is the Minnesota, it's like a listserv of all city, county managers in the state of Minnesota. We also do it on the Association of Minnesota Counties, and then we do the league equivalent in South Dakota, North Dakota, I should have went North Dakota, South Dakota, but South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. We also post it through the major public administration masters universities in Minnesota, which is Mankato, or University of, Mankato State, still that in my head. Mankato State, Hamlin, and the University of Minnesota. And then ICMA, which is the International City County Manager Association or Management Association, and that's kind of a go-to resource on a national basis.
Okay.
So, I mean, in reality, we're gonna see applicants from all over the place. The majority of the applicants will be coming from Minnesota and then, you know, a little bit further out in the Midwest. What I do find is there's people from other nearby states that are interested in coming to Minnesota. Pay is generally a little bit better. I think the working conditions probably are as well in general, so. But yeah, those are at least the advertising venues that I'm thinking of right now. There may be one or two others, but it would be.
Well, and I was just told today that we expected to get a lot of phone calls from people looking for a job in Arlington, Texas.
Yeah.
Apparently, we get a lot of phone calls that the office has to clarify, no, we're in Minnesota.
So that's a really good point. So fortunately, you won't have to feel those calls, but.
Yes,
but
but
they
just
will
to
be.
be aware that you might.
I never thought about that, but
Yes.
it does make sense. And people are, oh, Arlington.
Yep.
And we'll say, no, we're the right Arlington.
That's
Exactly.
right.
There's actually 27 Arlingtons in the United States.
Sure, I suppose there's a lot of them. Virginia.
You just did.
South Dakota.
Nisswa,
There's an Arlington, South, Pheasant up there.
Yeah.
Nisswa, you just had interviews for, what kind of numbers did they get as far as their candidates?
Yeah, so I'll preface this
begin
by
with.
saying it's quality, not quantity. They had 89 applicants.
Oh, wow.
So, but, quality, not quantity. I mean, there were a lot of those that didn't take long to
Weed 'em out.
move them to the not considered piles.
Yeah.
But numbers have been significant so far this year. So I don't know if that's a trend, I don't know if that's just in isolation. I'm gonna be doing interviews on Wednesday in Mayor, much closer by. There were over 60 applicants there
Wow.
for that position as well, so. But I'll say it repeatedly, quality.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Look forward to moving ahead.
Okay, moving on to item 14, August 7th council meeting date change.
Yes, I unfortunately have a commitment that evening, and so in looking at the calendar and the schedule, if the council were to decide to continue with that date, obviously it would be difficult for me to attend, but this also happens to be the time when there's the long break. You got an extra Monday in there, and we already have a set joint meeting with the planning commission, and so I didn't know if the council would be interested in looking to either go the day of the planning commission and just have kind of a longer meeting for that night, or if you wanted to stick to the August 7th, but wanted to bring that to your attention.
I would like to do it on, I mean, just to make it workable for you, I would like to see us move it to August 3rd, the same evening as the joint council and planning commission. And go with a, pardon?
Thursday.
I thought
That's
it was a Thursday.
Thursday,
It's a Thursday.
Oh,
It's a Thursday.
okay.
Thursday the 3rd.
Yep.
And make it a 5:30 council meeting and, you know, we hopefully could be done then by 7:15. I don't know, throw that out there for a suggestion.
I believe the planning commission's meeting at 7. They have some business they're doing prior to. And
Okay.
then-
Prior to the joint,
Yeah.
yeah.
But-
So 5:30 would give us an hour and a half for our
Mhm.
meeting.
And at what time?
5:30 is what I suggested, but I want to hear input from you people. If that'll work, if it won't work.
Work for me.
That's fine.
Works for me.
Okay, everyone's okay with that?
I'll have to check tomorrow, but should be okay.
So 5:30 on August 3rd.
Doesn't take the place of the meeting on the 7th.
That would, yes. And I think we can try and hold a meeting too, you know, as far as try and make it as
A
quickly,
agenda?
shorter.
A short
Yeah,
agenda
shorter.
maybe then?
Well,
I keep hearing about this.
Wow.
At one point, there were
That might be
these
right.
short agendas.
we had a 22-minute meeting one night, so
Oh, gosh.
just, that's
I
the
can't
record.
remember that.
Never again.
No.
All right, moving on to miscellaneous business, department update, police. Anything?
I look to Jordan, he's sitting here.
Yeah,
Officer Wood.
Jordan's here.
I have something.
I was told there's gonna be a PowerPoint. Well, I can, just as an update, we did have 12 applications for the police chief. And so I have done an initial review, and I will be meeting with interim chief Nienaber tomorrow to review them and identify who our recommended first round of applicants would be. I think at the last meeting, you were presented with a schedule of doing a first round and a second round. Looking again at the applications on paper, I would say that is will be a good method. I think what we will be recommending to have a broader scope for that initial interview and then get a little bit more in depth for a second round.
Do we know, in regards to the police, we don't know where we're at yet with the potential new officer with this testings?
Oh, yeah.
It is in the process. We are getting
It's in the process.
very near the end. We're waiting for some final,
Couple more weeks?
Test.
I don't believe,
Couple more,
I believe the interim chief is pressing very hard to get information early this week.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good
Yeah.
news, yeah.
Maybe I missed, was there an update on the break-in? Has there been anything new?
Jordan, do you know anything on that? Any?
We're still trying
Okay.
to figure out cameras and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
I have a couple things from just reading in here, and I don't know if you heard in Mankato this weekend, the police were called to some kids making, while the person who called them in didn't know what was exactly, and the policeman got there and saw there wasn't any big deals, and he started playing basketball with them. And other things that could be done, give them a ticket for an ice cream cone. Make these guys more positive around you, things like that. You know, we've got the Arlington Night Out starting, but I think that was really cool. And then publish the police report, you know, the one-page one.
The summary.
People didn't think anything was being done in town. No business checks and doors found open. That document would show that.
Isn't
They're
that
all-
already on our website?
I don't believe so. I don't believe that.
Boy, I thought it was being published
I don't know.
somewhere.
I can check, because I know when I got the report, I had followed up with Vicki to ask how much of this is public, because I would like to move towards putting more and more of the agenda packet online. And she had indicated that she didn't believe that some of it was, so they would have to go through. But the summary page certainly would be
Without the
public
specifics,
information.
yeah.
Right.
I
Without
think
the
so.
addresses typed in.
So if it is not, I can, like I said, I would like to move towards having a more public agenda as well as actual packet information, and so that can be included in part of that conversation.
That'd be great.
Speaking of Arlington Night Out, Jordan, any updates on that? How are the plans coming for that?
Plans are coming good. Heidi, Joe, and myself have been working hard, mostly Heidi. Heidi is the animal with that stuff. So, but no, it's gonna be good.
Good.
It's gonna be a good second annual one.
All right. Great.
And the block parties are what time? 5 to 7?
7 to 9, I think block parties are they not? 7,
I believe so.
something like that.
Here, I think I have it right here.
It's way down at the bottom of the poster, I believe.
Yeah. They have it on here?
And did,
No.
I need to talk to everybody.
Yeah, the pledge for the block party
Oh,
is
it's-
7 to 9?
7 to 9.
Okay.
Band. They're playing.
All right, anything else? Councilmember Yashewski, did you have anything?
No,
Okay,
I was-
all right. Any committee updates? Probably hasn't been any meetings recently.
Quiet.
There's a planning and zoning one, but I missed it on Thursday.
Okay, yeah, I didn't get to it either. All right, move on to open discussion. Anything that council wants to bring up or discuss?
Just back up, does everybody know Bob Stevens retired from the hospital and Mike Phelps was selected as the new CEO?
Of Ridgeview, that would be,
Ridgeview,
right?
yeah.
I knew that they had a retirement, I don't know that, didn't know the names though, but, okay, thank you for that. And when does he start, or is he on the new person?
Well, he was on staff, he was one of the other officers,
He moved
little
up.
door down the pecking order, but he was
Okay.
like no, he wasn't CFO, he was one of those
Okay,
guys.
okay, thank you. Any other discussion items? If not, a motion is in order to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hattlestead, second by Councilmember Batchor to adjourn the meeting at 8:28. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
I think I'm planning on going to that
Okay.
MPA meeting, dinner at Canterbury Park.
Yes.
I'm not gonna miss out on that one. I've been there for a while. Do you know Dana Leonard?